Space Coast Daily is Brevard's most trusted news. Through spacecoastdaily.com and Space Coast Daily's social media reach, hundreds of thousands of people stay informed every day. Through Space Coast Daily's unmatched digital reach, with the Space Coast Daily's direct mail newspaper and Space Coast Daily, the magazine in print, our loyal and engaged viewers enjoy free local news they can trust every day, and all at no charge thanks to our successful advertising clients, and also at our special events at Space Coast Daily Park in Vieira, where hundreds of thousands of people see our clients' advertisements. Call today to get your message seen on Space Coast Daily and take your business to new heights. Get launched with Space Coast Daily. Call 321-323-4460 today. Did you know that Brevard County ranks in the top 1% of the lowest crime rates in North America? That means we're 99% better than most of the counties in North America. And one of the reasons for that is our excellent crime fighting force here in Brevard County, led by our Sheriff Wayne Ivey. Wayne, welcome to the program.
Thank you, my friend. Thanks for having me.
Listen, I just want to show something. We're gonna kick off with this very interesting clip that ran on most news networks across North America, indeed across the world, last week, right before the No King's Day, where the peaceful protest was supposed to happen across the country. But our sheriff, Wayne Ivey, had this message.
People are moving to Florida in droves because this is the free state of Florida. They're moving here because they know their families will be safe here, their businesses will be safe. They won't have to contend with what we're seeing in places like Los Angeles and New York and Chicago, those things that are happening right now as we stand here today speaking. Our general was, I will say, very instrumental, was the tip of the spear in our blueprint for Free Florida. And now he's the tip of the spear in making sure that we are protecting what I like to call our 3 C's, our citizens, our cops, and our Constitution. And he has stood strong with not only law enforcement, but with us here in Brevard County, and we appreciate you. I'm gonna start out by addressing the doxing issue that we were talking about. Our ICE agents, just like our Florida Highway Patrol, are our partners. We all ride together in this. We all are out here to make sure that we're protecting our citizens, protecting our communities. Many of them have been called to the border. Many of them have been called to other locations to deal with the amount of fugitives and things that are going on, detainers. So for us, we will have their back. We will work closely with Colonel Howes and his team in making sure that we're increasing patrol, we're watching them. Anybody that's doxing them, as the General said, we passed a law about 4 or 5 years ago that makes it illegal to dox here in the state of Florida. So anybody that's doing that, we will take them to full task on doing it. We will stand with you. I want to define a couple things, and our general was very kind in how he said things. I'm not as usually as elegant in how I say things. So I'm gonna first say that peaceful protests are part of our democracy. We invite people to share their opinions. That's what our country is all about. The key word in that is peaceful. And if it's peaceful, us in law enforcement are going to make sure you have a safe environment to do it in. That's part of that process. If you let it turn violent, whoo, you do not want to do that in Brevard County. I'm going to tell you that, and I believe I can speak for my fellow sheriffs around the rest of the state. You don't want to let it happen. And just so there's no confusion, because I don't want to hear any whining later saying we didn't know, I'm going to break it down for you, all right? Because as you watch these riots unfold across the rest of the country, what you are seeing is buildings being burned down, police cars being bricked, having explosive devices thrown on them, having fire, guns pointed at them, bricks thrown at them, all and on. So I'm gonna break it down for you, all right? And if somebody wants to know what I mean by turn violent, all right, this is what I mean. If you resist lawful orders, you're going to jail. Let me be very clear about that. If you block an intersection or a roadway in Brevard County, you are going to jail. If you flee arrest, you're going to go to jail tired, because we are going to run you down and put you in jail. If you try to mob rule a car in Brevard County, gathering around it, refusing to let the driver leave, in our county, you're most likely going to get run over and dragged across the street. If you spit on us, you're going to the hospital and in jail. If you hit one of us, you're going to the hospital and jail, and most likely get bitten by one of our big, beautiful dogs that we have here. If you throw a brick, a firebomb, or point a gun at one of our deputies, we will be notifying your family where to collect your remains at, because we will kill you graveyard dead. We're not going to play. This has got to stop. You're watching what's taking place out there. You're seeing police officers that are being attacked, being spit on, being put in harm's way just for doing their jobs. You're seeing ICE agents that are being targeted for doing their jobs. And you're seeing obstructionists that are doing all of this, standing in the way of law and order. Not here, not in the state of Florida.
Now, Wayne, that's a powerful, powerful message that you sent out across the country, and it resonated with so many people, not only here in Brevard, but all across the country. What led you to that very powerful statement?
So, I think I said what everybody else in the country is thinking. They're watching these violent riots break out across the country, rioting against ICE doing their jobs of deporting illegals out of our country. Throwing, fire bombs, breaking into stores, stopping cars. And so what led me to say it needed to be said. It was something that I felt needed to be heard, not just in our community, because, I'll tell you, Giles, our community historically has always had peaceful protests. And at the very beginning of that clip, I say that peaceful protests are part of our democracy, and that if you're going to protest peacefully, we're going to provide you a safe environment to do it in. But if it turns violent, and that was the message. And what we have seen is agitators come in, those that come from other areas that aren't part of our community that will come in and commit acts of violence. And so, I like to consider it a tutorial of how to not go to jail, how to not end up at the hospital, and how to not end up at the graveyard for putting one of our officers, one of our deputies, or one of our citizens in harm's way.
Mm-hmm. And most people really, as far as we could tell, most people absolutely supported your words 100%. Of course, Governor DeSantis had come out with that message at the same time about if your vehicle is being prevented from moving by people surrounding your vehicle, threatening your vehicle, you have the authority to move forward with your vehicle. How does that resonate with the sheriff's office here in Brevard County?
Exactly as the governor presented it. Florida's anti-riot law puts it well into perspective of what people can do, and everybody knows there's a difference between peacefully protesting and rioting. And when it crosses that line, when it crosses that threshold, and you're stopping someone's car in the intersection, and you're pulling them out of their car, you're preventing them from leaving, that's certainly crossed that line. And so that's what the governor was speaking to, and he was exactly right in his comments. And I will say, what I said and what the governor said did not sit well with certain people across the country. But that's okay. George Patton said that if everybody's sitting at the table thinking alike, somebody's not thinking. So obviously people have their own opinions. People have those varied opinions. But at the end of the day, no one has the right to put someone in a violent situation, to put someone in a dangerous situation where their lives are at risk, their ability to come and go has been taken. So that's what that message from me was exactly about, is come out, do it. We're going to give you a safe environment to protest in, but if you're going to turn violent, you're going to pay the price. There's consequences for your actions.
Talking about Sheriff Wayne Ivey's message to Brevard Countyans and also people all around the country during the No Kings Day. Now, as a result of that, were there any problems in Brevard County? I mean, we had a magnificent showing here of people peacefully protesting here at our studio location at 520 and US 1. Were there any problems?
There was absolutely zero problems. There was a good turnout at both of the locations where the No Kings events were taking place. There was zero problems. People stayed on the sidewalk. They monitored the traffic lights for when they wanted to cross in the crosswalks, which is exactly what we wanted. And, I look at this from the aspect of what I said needed to be said. In fact, it needed to be heard across the country. I've had law enforcement leaders from across this country that have reached out for me and said, bravo, finally somebody said what needed to be said. I've had deputies and law enforcement officers from across the country, not just chiefs and sheriffs, but our boots on the ground that are out there doing the job every day, that have thanked me for protecting them, have thanked me for protecting their ability to do their jobs, you know. And so here locally, we had zero problems. We partnered with the Cocoa Police Department as well as the Palm Bay Police Department. We had resources working with them and doing the things that we were doing, and I'm proud to say we had no problems.
Currently, obviously, the current affairs of the nation, there's a lot of turmoil worldwide in the Middle East. Of course, the Russian-Ukrainian war going on. The threat here on the homeland, does that keep you awake at night at all in terms of terrorism here, possibly on the Space Coast?
Yeah, I think you have to always have an open mind that there could be those here in our country. In fact, there are most likely those here in our country that are here to do harm. You know, for the past 4 years, our borders have been pretty wide open. So the ability to control who came into our country was non-existent for the last 4 years. So what kind of damage, what kind of cells came in across those? So from our perspective, we always work from the aspect that there's something out there that could hurt our citizens or hurt our community, and we are going to be prepared for it. And so the main focus is to be ready to respond, not react. And there's a difference between those two. Reaction is, oh my goodness. Response is a well thought out process that you know what's coming, you know how to prevent it from coming. Because that's the ultimate goal. We want to prevent any type of critical incident from happening, not just in our community, but across the country. And when you look, if you go back to 9/11, for example, there were telltale signs scattered throughout the country, scattered right here on you know, Florida's East Coast, where some of them had trained and learned to fly planes, you know, right here on the East Coast of Florida. So there's always those telltale signs. Thankfully, we have a community that partners with us, and you know, we thrive on if you see something, say something. We also live off of it takes a community to protect a community. So our citizens are letting us know of anything that they see that's out of line, anything that they see as concerning.
Mm-hmm. I grew up in England in the 1970s, and the Irish Republican Army were blowing up things every week, and it became sort of a way of life. And so you're exactly right. If you see something, you say something. And that was the message back in the 70s. If you see a package, if you see something that's not out of the sorts, then you must report it to somebody.
Yeah, and I want to extend on that just a little bit. What I always tell folks, especially if I'm doing a presentation or something like that, is call us. Let us come check it out. The worst that happens is you're wrong, and we get to meet you, and we get to meet somebody else, and everybody's safe. The worst that happens if you don't call us could be disaster. And so call us, let us come vet it, come check it out, and you know, just continue to do the things that Brevard County does that, quite frankly, Giles, has led to that incredible crime rate that we talked about. You know, our crime rate's down 52% in the last 12 years. Fewer victims of crime last year than any time in the past 45 years. So that's that partnership, that nucleus of a force multiplier, if you will. Our agency's 1,700 strong, but we have 600,000 plus citizens. That's the force multiplier of it.
Mm-hmm. Talking with Wayne Ivey regarding safety and security here on the Space Coast. Brevard County ranking higher than 99% of counties in North America as far as crime and safety, keeping our rates low. Sheriff, we see you out, we see your folks working with ICE occasionally here in the news.
Absolutely.
How does the coordination between the Brevard County Sheriff's Department and ICE and other agencies work in order to make things like that happen?
Yeah, so it goes back to partnerships. You know, for the previous 4 years, there was no partnership between the federal agencies. In fact, if you look at crime across the board, any other crime in America, whether it's homicide, sexual battery, robbery, kidnapping, human trafficking, drugs, whatever it is, local, state, and federal authorities work it together if it crosses jurisdictional lines. That's on every crime, except immigration. And it had been basically local and state authorities had been handcuffed, weren't allowed to be involved. Governor DeSantis and our great leaders in our legislature were able to fix that on some levels here in Florida. The new administration in Washington, D.C. has been able to open up the channels of not only communication, but of partnership through what's called the 287G program. And the 287G program gives us the ability to partner with those federal agencies, ICE, Customs, Border Patrol, Homeland Security, to be able to be a force multiplier for them, as well as be able to house some of those that are temporarily housed in preparation of being deported. So it's opened up the door to be able to work. I was at a meeting yesterday in Fort Lauderdale with Florida sheriffs as well as high-ranking officials from ICE and Customs and talking about what we need to do differently. The biggest challenge right now for us is having the housing for them. The feds have limited housing space to be able to house them, and so there's some avenues that are being pursued out there. I know our Attorney General just spoke about one of them, possibly Alligator Alcatraz, I think he called it, certainly a possibility of being able to assist our federal partners. But that's the biggest challenge right now, is being able to house those that are being ready to be deported or going into being housed prior to their court dates and stuff.
Has Brevard County been a center for illegal immigrants being picked up and moved into detention facilities like that? Have we seen a lot of that here on the Space Coast?
Oh, it could be daily. If the ICE, Customs and Border Patrol came here daily, we would see those type of detentions being made. Yeah. Do we see it at the level that some of the more metropolitan areas see? No, but we do have our fair share of those that are here in the country legally. We're working diligently with them. Through the 287G program, there's really three avenues. There's what's called the WSO program, the Warrant Service Officer, which allows us to serve a detainer, allows us to house them in our facilities for up to 48 hours while we're waiting on Customs and Border Patrol to come get them. Then there's a second part of it that deals with us being able to work a street task force aspect, and then there's the jail housing side of it. So all 67 sheriff's offices in the state of Florida have signed up in those 287G categories, and there's actually 57 sheriffs in the state of Florida that have county jails. We are one of those, obviously. The other 10 are run by either the county commission or private. All 10 of those have also signed up. So full participation across the board in the state of Florida.
Is the Brevard County Jail at full capacity at the moment? Are we?
No. We've been very fortunate. We worked out a great position with Department of Corrections. Their director of Department of Corrections, Ricky Dixon, really when he took over, he kind of facilitated moving people that had been sentenced out of the county jails into the state prisons. For a while there, we had a backlog where somebody had been sentenced to state prison, but they weren't coming to get them right away. And so we've been able to heighten that, and now our population is very manageable. Our team does a great job out there. We work, greatly with our state attorney to find those that maybe they're in our jail, but maybe they are better served by going into drug court. Maybe they're better served by going into veterans court. And being able to get them back out and rehabilitative and into our community. So we've been able to manage our population. We have room to house those for our federal partners, and we work with them every day on doing it.
Morale seems to be at an all-time high for me. I've lived here since '81. I talk to many sheriffs all the time, and they're very happy in their positions. They're very confident in the leadership, obviously. Are you hiring people? Can they apply now? What sort of positions are you hiring for?
They can go to brevardsheriff.com and look for our job opportunities, career opportunities. We're hiring telecommunicators. We're hiring corrections deputies. We're hiring road patrol deputies, mechanics to work in our fleet. Across the board, like most agencies, we have vacancies. And as I always tell everybody, especially those that are just coming out of college or those that are even coming out of high school and don't know what they want to do yet, we have everything you could possibly want to do within our agency. We have veterinarians, we have vet techs, we have mechanics, we have aviation, we have IT. Across the board, it's kind of like an aircraft carrier. It's a city to itself.
I mentioned having been here a long time. I've never seen really one of our sheriffs involved in a community like yourself. The Dancing for the Stars for the Space Coast is an incredible event. I know you put a lot of work into it as well, your staff, dedicated volunteer time as well. A lot of money was raised for local charity, wasn't it?
Yeah, it absolutely is every year, and that's a credit to our Brevard County Sheriff's Public Safety Charity. Lindsay Deaton, our executive director, runs that, does a great job with it. All of the volunteers from the Sheriff's Office, her team, they make that happen. As you know, I show up on event night and I'm a talking head. They tell me what we need to do. So we had a little bit of fun this year, though. We had a little bit of difference this year.
Yeah.
Jay Martinez and I started it out with a little opening act of the Blues Brothers.
Yeah, awesome stuff. We were proud to be there. There was, some people on social media. Just remember, folks, over $400,000 raised, I think, something like that.
Yeah, I think it was right at $400,000.
$400,000 raised by the sheriff and his crew putting together an event. So not only fighting the crime on the streets, they're helping our charities as well. Sheriff, what's in the future for Wayne Ivey?
Oh, just being sheriff as long as our community allow me to do it. Yeah. I love this job. I get up every day, Giles. I can't wait to put this green uniform on. I had hoped it'd be a little more slimming, but it wasn't. So, but hey, I'll get a darker green or something. But I love this job, man. This is the funnest thing I've ever done in my life. I'm surrounded by an amazing team of men and women that just knock it out of the park every day. We're surrounded. Our agency is surrounded by an amazing community that's like no other I've ever seen. When I was with the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, at some point or another, I worked in all 67 counties of the state of Florida. Maybe brief times or whatever, or long term, but I worked in all 67 counties. And I will tell you that I've never seen another place like Brevard County where our citizens pull together. And as I tell everybody, we might fight amongst ourselves sometimes. We might have little disagreements, but nobody messes with us. Man, Brevard County is awesome. This is the place to be.
Well, folks, if you see something, say something. That's the message today. We're in heightened awareness times here in America and on the Space Coast. An incredible possible target for the bad guys and bad people out there. So be aware. Sheriff, in closing this interview today, what message do you have for people out there on the Space Coast?
Well, I think I would stem it off of something you said earlier. When you were growing up, the car bombings and everything else became almost a daily occurrence. Stay vigilant. We can't become complacent. And, when you look at Brevard County, we have significant iconic things here that could make it a target. Just because we have a low crime rate and we have a great community that all works together doesn't mean that somebody from the outside wouldn't be looking to do damage here. So make awareness your sharpest tool. Make sure that you're reporting anything that, as I always tell everybody, makes that hair stand up on the back of your neck. And just remember, we don't know something's happening until 911's called or we're called to come look at it. So give us an opportunity to come work it. And that's what our citizens do each and every day. That's why we solve as many crimes as we do, whether they reach us by going on Crime Line at 1-800-423-TIPS, sending us an email, send us a personal message on our Facebook page. All of those are inclusive. Our citizens are our partners every day.
Be very aware, folks. For Wayne Ivey and the 1,700 members of your Brevard County Sheriff's Office, I'm Giles Malone for Space Coast Daily.
10 seconds and counting. 9, 8, ignition sequence start. 7, T-minus 6, 5, all engines running. 4, 3, 2, 1. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Did you know that you can go out and apply for almost $800,000 in grant money that's available to you and other organizations in Brevard for cultural and for sports events here on the Space Coast? And we're here with the gentleman who manages part of that effort here on the Space Coast, Terry Parks. Terry, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Well, it's always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure.
A real great asset to Brevard County. Terry, tell us about the Sports Commission and Sports Office at the Tourism Council.
Well, currently, right now, we are going through our MSP program applications. We have quite a few of them, to be honest with you, and getting those applications ready to submit to the TDC so they can get approved or denied or whatever the fate may be. Mm-hmm. But that's what we have going on right now.
Mm-hmm. And tell us about your office, exactly kind of what your mission is in your office there to really attract and to encourage the business of sports on the Space Coast.
Well, I think first of all, let's talk about what sports tourism is. Anytime you have an event or you have people traveling, whether they're a spectator or a participant, for a sports event, that's what we call sports tourism. So when you jump in the car and you go to the Super Bowl, that's sports tourism. If you go get in the car and you drive up to Jacksonville for your a cousin's or a nephew's baseball tournament, That is sports tourism. So that's what we do here. And the absolute goal is to have people coming from outside of Brevard County bringing those dollars in and spending those money and leaving that money here in Brevard County.
Yeah. I mean, when you drive through A1A or drive through Stadium Parkway now in Vieira, sometimes, you see those out-of-town license plates and you're backed up at the traffic light and you're going, oh my goodness, all these people in town for this softball tournament at the stadium. But what people don't realize is the benefit of those people being here: hotels, restaurants, gas stations, supermarkets, buying retail supplies at Walmart. You talk about the benefits of people being in Brevard County. It's huge, isn't it?
It is huge, and that's a great example that you just used, because that's where you can actually see the benefits of sports tourism. When you go to the restaurants in the Vieira area and you see all those kids and families and adults sometimes in uniforms, those people have come from quite a ways sometimes to be here. When you go to the supermarkets and you see all the Gatorade is gone and all the snacks and candy is gone, that's again a very telltale sign that a sports tourism event is taking place here at that time.
Yeah, of course the tourists who stay in hotels, if they buy a $200 per night hotel room, they're paying 5% tourist tax. So that's $10 going to the Office of Tourism, generating around $25 million a year that the tourism office uses to support the beach operations, support the new zoo, support the stadium, support the parks and rec, and programs such as yours. It's really a sort of a full circle. You raise the money from the tourists, and it comes back into the office, and it goes out again to bring more tourists in, doesn't it?
That is correct. That is correct. And we also use that money to go out and entice more businesses and event operators to bring their events here to the Space Coast.
Yeah, it's fantastic. This is Terry Parks. He's the director of the sports office here at the Office of Tourism. And the business of sports is huge. All across the nation, you've got counties vying for things that we have here, trying to take away our spring training efforts, trying to take away the USSSA to their cities because they know the economic impact. Now then, let's talk about this grant process. You have some money. I think the deadline just passed, but that cycle will be coming back again soon. If there's someone out there who has an idea for a sports event that will bring people into the county, I don't care whether it's cornhole, or it could be volleyball, it could be any sports activity that you have an idea for, you want to create an event. If you contact Terry, there's a possibility that you could get seed money and money to help bring that event to reality.
Correct. And additionally, I would ask that you go ahead and get some metrics and some data from the events that you've had most recently, because during the during the application process, we'll need some information to see if you would qualify for assistance or not.
Okay. Yeah, we actually sponsor a program called Cocoa Beach Spring Training, where we bring in sports teams from all over the country in the spring. And we have successfully applied for that, and it really helps to generate growth in the program, to do more advertising, to go to conventions, to reach out to more coaches. And the coaches are often the decision makers as to where the teams go, right?
That is correct. And you just spoke about the conventions. We do a lot of outreach and going out to sports trade shows, softball convention, baseball convention, lacrosse convention. And it's at those events that we're able to sit in front of these decision makers one-on-one and tell them about every single amenity that we have to offer here on the Space Coast.
When we're competing with places like Louisville or Dallas or Virginia for events, what are some of the challenges that you face in competing with those other cities with the facilities that we currently have?
Well, I really don't see them as challenges. I see them as opportunities, because I really focus on the things that we do have as opposed to focusing on what we do not have. For instance, we have great weather here. We have the beaches. We have protected waterways for rowing teams to come into. We have softball fields, baseball fields. So we know our niche, and we try to stay in our lane, and we try to get as much out of that orange as we can.
Yeah. Some of the successes that you've had in your office, I know the rowing, you just mentioned that. That's been really interesting. We've covered it ourselves from a news standpoint out there at Merritt Island. And you see these rowing teams coming from the Northeast, from Cornell and from Harvard and Yale, many schools bringing hundreds of people down for extended periods of time, right?
Correct. And truth be told, that is a market that we're really trying to take advantage of. We know that throughout the course of those winter months, we have teams coming down from New England, the Midwest, even the Atlantic coast, to get away from that cold weather. And we've actually, it looks like we are increasing those numbers, and we're actually putting a lot of effort into getting more teams to come down here, not only in rowing, but also in all the field sports as well, the lacrosse, the baseball, and the softball teams.
Yeah, and there's some footage there you see of our Space Coast Daily drone up in the air covering some of these rowing events. It's spectacular, Terry, when you get out there on that barge canal or down at the canal way down south. What an absolute ideal environment for rowers here in the winter on the Space Coast.
It is, and one thing that we are very cognizant of is that these training events may well turn into a contest or a tournament or something like that we could brand and bring more teams down here on an annual basis.
Lacrosse, you mentioned lacrosse, that's a growing sport here on the Space Coast as well. Vieira is very active. We've got a beautiful park out there, Vieira Regional Park, with those turf fields.
Correct.
That the County Commission put in. And our Parks and Rec Department really supports your efforts tremendously, don't they?
Yeah, they do as much as they can, because we do understand that they also have rec partners that are involved and are contractually binding agreements with the Department of Parks and Recreation.
Right.
So we understand that, but they really do their best to work with us in trying to see what events are able to be moved to help us out. What events obviously are not able to be moved. We don't pursue those, but they do a good job, and we work in lockstep with them, and we keep the lines of communication open.
Yeah, we've got literally billions of dollars in property in the county for Parks and Rec. And of course, the kids are in school all morning and into the early afternoon, our local kids, and those parks are used by our folks in the business of sports, using those fields in the morning, generating economic impact, generating revenue back to the tourism office. It's a wonderful thing to see, and such a healthy thing to see a surfing activity out on the beach, for example, and you have these surfing events as well. They draw a lot of people, a lot of spectators, don't they?
They sure do. When they come from Georgia, all from Florida, southeast area, and they really have a good time. And again, it's almost therapeutic in most cases, because again, who could be upset with all the sunshine that we get here, and especially when you're on the beach and you're in the waves and you're doing what you're supposed to be doing out there, having fun and competing. Yeah.
Now, we all miss our professional baseball teams. Of course, we had the Marlins here, and we had the Astros, and we had the Nationals here at Stadium. But my goodness me, the USSSA out at Space Coast Stadium. You know, we have our park, Space Coast Daily Park, right across the street from Space Coast Stadium. And I'll tell you what, the number of people coming through that facility now, in the restaurants, in the gas stations, in the shopping areas of Vieira, all across the beaches, staying in those hotels. The U-Trip, I call it U-Trip, it's the United States Sports Specialty Association.
Correct.
It's quite a mouthful.
Oh, yeah.
But they have an organization there that's second to none, don't they?
They sure do. And that facility in particular hosts one of our well-received events, the Space Coast Spring Games. It's an opportunity for college softball teams, Division II, Division III, junior college, and NAIA programs to come down and get some work in, playing against opponents that they would not normally play against. And that event spans the course of 3 to 4 weeks in February and March. So I'm very, very familiar with that facility, and it's doing well.
Yeah, Scott Rogers and Lexi and Dustin out there doing a first-class job. I mean, that facility there with those turf fields, I think there's 5 turf fields in the back, then 3 more in the stadium and the softball field. I mean, it's amazing.
Correct. To my understanding, there are 3 quads and 3 stadiums.
Yeah. That's the Space Coast Stadium out in Vieira, right next to Space Coast Daily Park. The USSSA invites you to come out to many of their events this summer. They're having opening ceremonies for their events, and it's something to see. Thousands of athletes here, young athletes, enjoying their sport that they love here on the Space Coast. As you go forward, Terry, where do you see the vision for sports on the Space Coast? You have a dream out there at some point. Where would you like to see the Space Coast in, say, 5 years?
Well, and this is being conservative, I'd like to grow the things that we are already doing well in. You know, our road races, our 5Ks and 10Ks and half marathons, our duathlons, our triathlons, our surfing events. Just grow everything as much as possible. And like I spoke to earlier today, we'd love to see the rowing, see what that would grow into. I think we have the area that it would be taken to. it would be followed very, very well. It would be received very, very well. And so again, I think that's going to do well here within the next 5 years.
For the events that we have coming in, what's the typical length of stay for a sports team? How many nights they usually spend in Brevard?
That's a great question. It depends on the event itself. We have events that last one day, and we have events like I spoke about, the Space Coast Spring Games and the Cocoa Beach Spring Games, that last the course of 3, 4, or 5 weeks. But typically, in most cases, we're talking about 3 or 4 days.
Yep. We covered the golfing events down at Suntree. World-class college golf teams coming into the Space Coast from all of Auburn and Georgia and North Carolina. The very best young golfers in the country were right here at Suntree.
That is correct.
And that was beautiful to see.
That is the Moon Golf Invitation that you're speaking of at Suntree. And we also have an event that actually spawned out of that, which is the Columbia Classic. Columbia University hosts a women's college golf tournament at Durand. So again, we have 2 Division I women's golf tournaments that take place here on the Space Coast.
Yeah, fantastic. Now, I remember traveling to sports events myself, and we go to, say Atlanta or to New Orleans for an event, and you have a great time for 2 or 3 days, and then you go back home, you go, where are we going to go on vacation this year? And you say, well, man, we had such a great time in New Orleans. Let's go back there.
Right.
That's a real benefit, isn't it? To
It
this
is.
business
It
of
is the
sports?
benefit, and that is the best case scenario, Giles. Anytime we have an event, and we have a family that comes down here to support their son or daughter, and they get back home and they come back over and over and over again just because they fell in love with the place. That is the best case scenario and that's a dream we can do any better.
Yeah.
To be honest with you.
This is our good friend and leader here on the Space Coast, Terry Parks, who leads the Space Coast Office of Tourism's sports office. And his job is to bring events into Brevard County to generate dollars in hotels, restaurants, and other ways here on the Space Coast. Terry, the closing words from you for folks out there who are very interested in sports and have an idea for an event.
Well, I'll tell you what, I think for all of our citizens out there, I think we should all be very proud about our destination. I mean, we have a great community here, and if there's anybody out there that you know of that does the events that bring people to the area, please forward our information along to them, and we'll do our best to follow up.
Very good. It's a wonderful place to live here on the Space Coast. Sports is abundant due to our beautiful natural resources, our low crime rate here on the Space Coast, and of course all the attractions we have right over there, not too far away. For Terry Parks and all the great people at the Space Coast Office of Tourism, I'm Giles Malone for Space Coast Daily. can build your business in today's digital age, right? You hear content marketing, you hear advertising, you hear videos on YouTube and Facebook. Are you wondering how to put that all together? Well, today we have our specialist in the studio with us, Ron Krieger, who's our creative director here at Space Coast Daily and real business development guy, who's now available to you to sit down and map a roadmap for you and a campaign to bring more customers to your great products and services. Ron Krieger, welcome to Space Coast Daily.
Thank you, Giles.
We're
Glad to be here.
We're so excited to have you with us. He's a real professional in the industry for many years. Share with us, Ron, your background and really what you've learned from being in this business all these years.
Okay, well, a little bit about me. I mean, I'm originally from Tennessee, if you can't tell by the accent.
A little bit.
But I have an advertising background of about 25 years, everything from digital. I've done some time in TV, management, and on the streets. I've done some Kelly Blue Book, 10 years with them, doing some digital, some website designs, some SEO, SEM, a little bit of everything.
Yeah, a lot of broad background of experience in traditional media, but now Ron is taking it to the next level with us at Space Coast Daily. And really what we're doing now is developing content marketing campaigns for people to get their footprint on the search engines. And that's really where Ron comes in. And our team, of course, at Space Coast Daily is second to none with Zach Clark and Beth York and Zane and all the crew, Steve Wilson, Orville Susong, Gavin Keith, of course, Matt O'Hearn. We've got a team of experts now, and Ron works with them to form campaigns. I know you've got some exciting people you're working with now. Tell us about some of those and maybe some of the ways that you're hoping to build their business.
Okay, yeah, a variety of different companies. We've got some heating and air companies we've been working with. I've been kind of pounding the plumbing industry, a lot of plumbers around. What I do usually is I just come in and try to get them to tell me their story. And I think that's the benefit that we have here. We have the ability to tell a story that maybe other media forms don't. Mm-hmm. We have a hyper-local audience, so you're not going to have to play in the Orlando market. You're going to be down here. They always say fish where the fish are, and the fish are here. Yeah. And I'm just helping them get their story out in a personal way through what I like to refer to as probably the modern day word of mouth.
Yes, that's right. That's right. We're reaching now 2 to 3 million people a month through our newspaper, our magazine, online news, of course, our social media as well. And Ron uses those tools to really bring awareness and tell your story on Space Coast Daily. We're really pleased. One of our long-term friends here at on the Space Coast is Fish Lips Waterfront Bar and Grill, and we're going to be telling their story ongoing. Of course, our good friend Mike Schwartz will be retiring. And so we're telling his story, and that's what we can do for you. We can sit down with you with Ron and develop content that helps people understand what you do in your realm. Ron, we're so excited to have you with us. You're a real professional. He's a very good and honest person. He'll sit down with you and come up with a good plan within your budget so that makes sense, and we'll tell the story and keep people coming back and find you on this crazy internet, right, Ron?
Yes, absolutely. We'll make sure they can find you. We'll put the content out there to draw the attention you need.
Yeah. There it is, folks. You can reach out to Ron. We got his phone number for you right there on the screen. You can reach out to him and call him. He'll be happy to sit down with you for a chat and really show you how we can use these powerful tools at Space Coast Daily to help you build your business. For Ron Krieger, I'm Giles Malone for Space Coast Daily. We look forward to sitting down with you soon.
Get your business launched with Space Coast Daily through spacecoastdaily.com, Space Coast Daily social media, in print with Space Coast Daily newspaper and the magazine, as well as email blasts and the mobile app, and also at Space Coast Daily events. You can reach new customers every day. Get launched with Space Coast Daily and take your business to new heights. Call 321-323-4460 today.